Boom.
Hello everyone, this is State Representative Robert Martwick, and I'm coming to you once again from my office in Springfield, Illinois, with my end of session, or not, wrap-up, okay? Notice it's in quotes. So, let me give you, yesterday was our last day of the regular session, and I want to talk about what we accomplished, what we did down in Springfield this year, what we didn't get done, and what we're still working on. Before I begin, I would like to give a big thank you to the Illinois Policy Institute. And I mean that because them sending my video out to all of the people that they speak to has allowed me to send facts and message that maybe they don't like, but really get that message out to people I would have never otherwise reached. So I really thank them for helping promote my videos. I would appreciate if their followers would kind of stick to a respectful conversation. A little bit less profanity, a little bit less bodily threats would be good, but hey, at least we're talking, right? So, end of session or not, okay? So, yesterday was the day that we typically hold as our budget deadline. But nothing is ever in Springfield a real deadline by virtue of the fact that we haven't had a budget in 3 years. So, let's talk about number one. Did we get a budget this year? No, at least not yet. So budget or not, right? Not yet. I'm very disappointed in this. This is something that I really, in the core of my being want to get done, but we seem to be unable to get it done. So why? What happened? Well, you've heard me talk about this many times. The governor is still refusing to work with us and find a solution to the budget. And so, of course, that gets left, well, just do it yourself. You have the supermajority. I hear that all the time, just do it yourself. Let me tell you what, I agree. I would like to. And there's a lot of my colleagues that would like to. But there's a lot of my colleagues in the Democratic side who say, no, this is not just a Democrat-run state. There are 67 of us in the House, but there's 51 Republicans. And we want them to participate, right? Because we have very, very big, challenging things to do in order to balance this budget. We have to make massive cuts. We have to increase taxes. Everyone knows it. Anything else is a lie. And we need to participate together because we all need to be part of the fix. Don't just say, well, you're the majority, you get it done. Now, again, I would, right? I would say to heck with them. We'll vote. But the problem is that you need 60 votes. And with 67 Democrats, not everyone agrees with that strategy. They say we're going to wait until they come to the table and join us in fixing the state. That's what they got elected to do too. Now there's a lot of talk, and I want to dispel a rumor about Speaker Madigan. A lot of people say, well, he's the guy who runs everything. I will tell you, he has refused to force us to do one thing or the other. Refused, right? So we have a caucus meeting. I'm not supposed to tell you what goes on in the caucus meeting, but I will tell you what went on in that caucus meeting. We had a vote. Should we pass a budget? Right? Because we've worked very hard. We've got it all crafted. I'm for it. Right? He would not say you should vote for the budget or you shouldn't vote for the budget. He turned to the Democratic members and said, what do you want to do? So the idea that he's the big ogre and the tyrant, I know that sounds good in press releases and it makes for a great story, but the bottom line is the ogre, the tyrant, is the guy sitting on the second floor who won't participate. Speaker Madigan says it's a democracy. You guys, when you're ready to pass a budget, we'll pass a budget. So that's where we are. What am I willing to do? Well, let me tell you what. I am willing to pass any budget that's balanced. I've even signed on to a budget sponsored by Representative Mark Batnick, which would make massive cuts across the board. I just think that running unbalanced budgets anymore is just going to exacerbate the problem, make it worse. You guys have all heard me talk about that. I will sign on to anything that balances the budget, that stops the deficit and the debts from accumulating, and I'm like I said, I'm ready to vote for a balanced budget, so let's get it done. We will be coming back in 3 weeks, so we're going to hold hearings in Chicago on the budget, and we're going to come back in 3 weeks where we get to one of the more hard deadlines. If we don't get something done by June 30th, there's a real problem, and then July 14th, if we don't get something done, the schools might not open on time, so the pressure is going to build. I'm hoping that's enough to get this thing done once and for all. I'm going to keep pushing for it. So let's talk about some things that did get done or didn't get done. Number two, elected school board. As all of you know, this is one of my big initiatives for the last 3.5 years or so, I've been working on an elected school board for Chicago Public Schools. So elected school board or not. So what happened? Listen, the ball got moved. It's a good thing. It passed the House of Representatives. It passed the Senate. The problem is that the Senate put an amendment on it, and that's okay. A little change to it, small changes to the bill. That means it has to come back to the House. Well, they didn't call the bill for a vote until after we had adjourned. So does that mean the bill is dead? No. Good news. It's going to come back to the House in the end of June. We're going to vote on it, and we're going to pass it out of the House, and we're going to send a bill to the governor's desk that will create an elected school board for Chicago Public Schools. So we're this close. I wish I could tell you that it was all done, but we're getting closer and closer, and that's really good stuff. Number 3, life insurance. Yes, I got one done. This is my bill that I worked on with the treasurer that will require life insurance companies to search their records to find out policies where the policyholder died and the beneficiaries haven't been paid. I know a lot of people say, well, don't they already do that? And the answer is no. There's a lot of companies that if you don't specifically come forward and say, hey, I'm the beneficiary of this life insurance policy, they won't come and find you. And that's wrong. So many people bought life insurance policies thinking that the insurance company would notify their beneficiaries. They're not only not under any obligation to do so, they specifically haven't, and they've held hundreds of millions of dollars from people. This will literally, I mean, there have been people in our district, in our neighborhoods, who have received big money because we forced the insurance companies to go find them. So this got done. It's going to the governor's desk. I'm very happy about that. Number 4, more money for schools. One of the big topics has been education funding reform. Well, we passed a bill yesterday that's going to the governor's desk that will put more money into education funding reform. This is good. And it changes the way it works. This means more money for our local schools. I represent 91% of my district is the city of Chicago. This is a big cash influx for the city of Chicago, and good news for everyone out in the suburbs. This is going to be a cash influx for every school district. No one will lose money in this, and Chicago Public Schools will finally be put on parity, help them solve some of their financial problems. Number 5, property tax relief. This is big. This bill, a bill that I passed, I sponsored, and it would it increases homeowners exemptions, increases senior citizen exemptions, and makes more senior citizens eligible for the property tax freeze, the senior freeze. This was something I worked on with Assessor Joe Barrios and State Senator Tony Munoz, and we got this passed. It's going to the governor's desk, and this will provide property tax relief for homeowners. Okay, not the phony freeze that the governor talks about. Property tax relief. This is a good bill. So this is generally what happened. I'm not happy about the budget, but we're not done. We're coming back. Elected school board is at the goal line. We're going to get this done. Life insurance is going to the governor's desk. More money for our schools is going to the governor's desk, and property tax relief is going to the governor's desk. So we got 3 good things done. We're still working on the others. What else? Last few things. We passed a bunch of reforms. Everyone talks about, why don't you pass some reforms? I want you to know I've got a list of reforms right here I'm going to tell you about. Number 1, we passed the workers' compensation reform package. Now, is it everything the governor wants? No, but that's the nature of what we do here. The governor has his ideas, we have our ideas. Compromise, right? But we did pass workers' comp reforms that will help. We talked about education funding reform. We passed a government consolidation bill. Everyone talks about how Illinois has too many forms of government. Well, guess what? We just passed a bill that will allow local governments, through an action of their citizens, to consolidate some of their governments and eliminate some small local governments that, if the citizens feel they're not needed, that's what they can do. Now, we also passed procurement reform, which reforms how we buy goods for the state, for state universities, and this will hopefully lower the cost and help save some money. We passed a bill that will allow the governor to sell the Thompson Center. That's one of his core ideas. He wants to get rid of the Thompson Center. We passed that bill. So we passed a bunch of stuff that the governor wants, right? When he talks about his turnaround agenda, he talked about education funding reform, workers' comp reform, government consolidation, procurement reform, selling the Thompson Center. That's what we did. So we gave him a lot. Hopefully that will bring him to the table and he can finally get to the business of doing the budget with us. Still in the works, a couple of things we're still working on. I want to come back next year. In the second year of this, we will get to them. Actually, hopefully in June, I'll get to this one, prioritization of payments. This is a big thing. I think it's important. It's an important statement for today. What this says is that we will prioritize, when we can't pay our bills timely, like we can't do right now, that we will prioritize payments to education and human services before we pay financial institutions. This is not debt service. If we have debts, we will pay our debts. That's important to the state. It's important to me that we are fiscally responsible. But the service fees that are attached to those, they do not get to get paid before education gets paid and human services get paid. So that's a good one too. I'm still working on vacancy reform. This is a big thing that I think will help revitalize some of the businesses in our neighborhood. Vacancy reform, still working on that with the assessor's office, with Alderman Arena, Alderman Sposato, Chamber of Commerce, the realtors. We're all coming together trying to find a solution. We made some progress, but we're getting there. And then finally, still working on pensions. I think there are a few pension reform measures that when we do the budget will help to make pensions more affordable without stripping away the benefits that employees have earned. And there's some things that we can do that I think will really be beneficial to everybody and will make the budgets, the pension slightly more manageable and help us with our budget. So that's what's going on. That's what we did. That's my end of session. Like I said, we didn't gavel out, we didn't adjourn. We said we will remain in continuing session until we solve that budget. So that's it for now. As always, reach out, tell me what you think. Again, for all the IPI folks, I would prefer if it was an intelligent conversation. You can stop insulting me and threatening me. But if you don't like anything on this, by all means, reach out, let me know what you think. Call me at my office. I'm always happy to talk to you and happy to engage. Until then, I'll probably check in sometime between now and then, but we'll be back for sure at the end of June, and hopefully I can tell you that we passed a budget. Thank you for watching.